Hi everyone, and welcome to my craft room. In today's video, we're going to make a little project that is an oldie but a goodie. I haven't made one of these in quite a while, but as in many things, we know that crafts and projects, trends always come back around. And this is a project that goes in line with how I like to make journals and albums and books. I like to repurpose little notebooks, notepads. Well, today we're going to be working on repurposing our composition notebooks into a glue book. And you may have seen glue books before, but I love to have these on hand. And I was looking around recently for a glue book and I didn't have one, so I thought it's time to make one. So as we're making this, we're going to talk about how I use glue books, which may be different from other people, and you may come up with different ways you want to use your glue books. But let's get into the craft, and I'm going to show you how you can make your own glue book. So at the time of this recording, there's a little bit of a storm outside, so you may pick up on some of the thunder, and I hope that's okay. But to me, this is a perfect day to sit down at the craft table and work on some projects, do some things. And so I thought it would be great to start with this glue book. So like I already mentioned, you're going to need some type of composition notebook. Now, I like to get the composition notebooks that have the little bit sturdier pages. I've had them before that they're a little bit more flexible, but go ahead and get this basic, usually the black and white composition notebook, and these are usually going to be a little bit cheaper coming up ready for school supplies. So I would also recommend grabbing up several of these because these are great to use at Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas time. So get some of these, but grab you one now. Also, we're going to need some pretty paper. So I have chosen, this is a set, and I think I looked before. This paper pad is dated from 2012. It's by Pink Paislee, and it's called London Market. And it just has kind of a vintagey look to it, and I really thought it would be good. I've chosen already this print to use on the front just because I like the different patterns of it, and maybe I may go in later and add a couple of things to the front. But really what I'm going to be working on is the inside of the glue book, and the main purpose of what I use a glue book for is kind of putting in different scraps that I have leftovers, or just different designs that I like that really don't have to have any rhyme or reason. It's just when I want to sit down and do some gluing of my papers or some of my embellishments and put them in here. I may even do some writing, some practicing of my script, or different designs that you can make with pens and that sort of thing. So that's what I really use my glue book for. So it's not of most importance that the front is all decorated up nicely, but I do like to add paper. So of course I'm going to need paper for front and back, and also for the insides. Even though I am a math person and I love looking at some of these tables and charts and stuff like that, I'm going to cover them up though when I'm using them here for my crafting purposes. So I'm going to be picking out some paper for that, and we'll work on covering that. Now you're also going to need, or at least for the way that I'm doing mine, I like to have my washi tape because I'm going to use that around the edges of my paper, at least on this edge here. When you're looking at the book, the far right side, I'm going to line it up with washi tape. And really the purpose, if you ask why are you doing that, it's mainly just for the feel of it, the feel that it gives the book. It's going to thicken this book up, and it just gives it a neat feeling. Really, I can't even explain it any other way. That's the main reason. The other thing you're going to need is stick glue, and you know what, I'm just using Elmer's school glue. And what we're going to end up doing is to make our papers a little bit thicker, a little bit sturdier, because this is just notebook paper. We're going to glue every 2 sheets together. So we're going to do the gluing first, then we're going to add the washi, and then our book is going to be ready to use as a glue book. So I'm going to get started with that and carry you along the way. So another thing about my composition notebook, this one is 80 sheets. It doesn't matter if it's college ruled or not. It doesn't matter to me, at least, because if I need the lines, I'm probably going to change it up a little bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have decided there's different ways that we can decorate our front covers. Because I am going to use this paper, I think what I have decided to do is I'm going to use the adhesive tape. You could use glue. There's several different things that you can do, but I'm going to go with applying my two-sided tape to the front cover. I'm using my 1/2 inch two-sided tape, and I've got a link to this below if you're interested in it. And I'm mainly going to be putting around the edges. Now I'm going to go probably extend a little bit beyond the black of the seam binding here. Now because this is tear tape, you can tear it, but I think I'm going to use my tape and we will just apply it along these edges first. Now we could also put the tape along the paper, but the method that I'm going to use right now is I'm going to put it on the book, then we'll place our paper down and we're going to trim around the edges. We could measure out and get our paper the right size first, but you know what? Sometimes I make mistakes that way, and so I'm going to place the paper first. It's going to hang over the edge, and then we'll trim around the edges. That is the plan. Now after I get around all 4 sides, I like to place some tape at angles in the middle here. We don't have to fully fill up the page with tape. We just want to get a good stick for our book. That's good. I'm going to press it down nicely, and then I will be pulling it up and ready to place the paper. I'm taking all of the tape covers off of this two-sided tape, and I've got a different technique that I want to try out with this. I've used this with some of my other papers today, but I'm not going to initially cut the paper because I'm going to actually do some rounding around. I'm going to cut across the top, but what I want to do here is, at first I was thinking I wanted to put this edge right along here, and I do like that best for the front, but I want to show you a technique that I'm going to need to round the paper over the edge. And so we're actually going to use this. It's going to almost mimic this spine here, this darker print, but it's a little different. So what I want to do here is I want to line up before I put it all the way down. I want to get all the way to where, as far as I have placed my tape, line up along this bottom edge, and then just rub across here and place this, let this tape and the paper adhere to the front of the book. And I'm even going to take my bone folder and just rub this across here. Be careful because right here is where my book ends. And I just went over it myself. But okay, so we have the front cover here adhered. When we open it up, the first step that I want to do is I want to trim off here. So I'm just going to take my scissors and right across, I'm going to follow along and try to cut as straight as I can. I've got just my little paper snips, and I probably should have used my longer scissors, might have made it easier. And I'm going to stop right there. We've got 5 inches of the paper left on the overhang here. What I'm going to end up doing is I want to fold this over and make a little pocket, but I really don't want a 5-inch pocket because that's going to come out pretty far. I'm thinking maybe a 3-inch pocket or a 3.5. I think I'm going to do a 3.5-inch pocket. So if I have 5 left and I want 3.5, I'm going to need to trim off 1.5. So I've got my trimmer here. We're going to have to kind of do this backwards in the way we put this in here. So I want to go to the 1.5 line. That's what I'm trimming off. Oops, that's my scorer. I need the blade. And I've trimmed that off. Also, before we tape anything down, I'm using my 1 3/4 inch circle punch. And I'm going to punch a little bit, about 1/3 of the way in the middle. And let's make a little bit of a notch there. This was a scrap sheet of paper in this collection that I think I'm going to use. And I'm going to put that there, and then we'll fold over here. So I need to apply some tape to this inside here. This is just going to be our base piece, and it does not have to go all the way to the edge. Now we're ready to put this paper down, and I want to make sure that I get this little butterfly here. So when I place the paper, I'm going to go line up this top edge, and I want to make sure I get to the very top. I'm checking my, let me turn this way so I can see it a little bit better. That I want to line it up along the edge of the adhesive and get it on there. Okay. And you know what? I went over just a little bit. I'm going to trim that, and this may be covered up when I pull the other piece over. And you know what? If it's not, it's okay. And we can always ink the edges and everything looks okay. So now we have the overhang down here. So we're going to do some trimming. Now notice I don't go all the way to my spine because that can affect opening and closing the book. Mainly closing the book. So I leave that little strip. And talking about inking, you could ink that if that bothers you. If you don't like it left over, well, just ink it. I still find this to be easier than measuring and trimming the pieces out. Okay. Let me make sure that's how I want it. And we are good on this inside until we are ready to fold down. I want to go ahead and trim off with a straight edge the remainder of this piece here. Okay, I think I have it lined up right. And I'm going to trim this off. There goes nothing. Actually, I'm going to get it right there. Okay. I think that's going to be good enough. And if I need to trim any when we fold it, I can do that. Now we're ready to fold this over. So we want to pull our paper to the edge and fold it down. We pulled it to the edge. Make sure we've got it all the way. And fold it down. I'm a little off on this side. Use our bone folder. And then what we're going to want to do, I got a little messy. My trimmer, I think, needs to be sharpened. Okay. I'm going to put some of my tape on these two edges. And I think I'll use the 1/4 inch tape for that. And so now if I have any little papers or any little embellishments that I want to slide in to maybe attach at another time, I've got a little pocket that we can do that with. And I think on the back side, maybe we will do a bottom pocket. Okay. The tape cover is off. Let's pull and adhere. And so now, here is our little pocket. We can place things inside this pocket area from our front cover. Now, if you want to, you can corner around. If you have one of the big chompers, you can use that, or you can take your scissors and find the little curve of the book that matches with the papers, and that fits, that works nicely. And there we've got our corners all nice, trimmed up. Might actually get that. There we go. And now we have our corners rounded. Inside cover is ready. Now let's add to the back. And I've adhered the back to this, and I said I was going to do it different in terms of I'm going to do a bottom pocket, but first I still want to do, I think, the roll over of maybe about I'll probably do 1 inch, but then I'm going to cover up this page. But I like how it looks when we have the cover covered up instead of the 2 sheets of paper. I just like that look versus, you know, having a piece that then could ravel up or something like that. And just like I said before, I've got 5 inches of paper remaining, and I'm going to cut at the 4-inch line because I'm going to just leave 1 inch over here that we will roll over. So I'll take that piece off. And then I also really want to take this off, but I think I'm going to use my scissors. I grabbed my larger scissors to start this. And we're going to try to trim this. I don't know if I can tell a big difference. I don't want to cut the book though, if I can help it. And there we go. Trimmed that off. I went ahead and put a strip right here on this inside cover because I'm going to just fold this down. We're going to have mainly paper to cover the full length of this back piece, but I still want to fold this down. It's almost like we're folding a gift, getting all the edges and getting them nice and crisp. And if we want to go ahead and trim off, look right here, I had a little piece that went too far on one side than the other. Now let's go ahead and trim our corner. And I do like to use this edge as almost a guide. And just the feel of the book. I don't really want to cut into the cardboard of the book. There we go. So the full length is approximately 7 1/4, but we're not going to go all the way to the edge. In fact, I'm going to leave this piece showing right here. I almost want to go to where the paper, right before it begins the curve right here on that corner piece. So I think if I do, I'm almost too far there. Because remember, we don't want to go all the way into the spine. I think I'm going to go... Let's go with 6 3/4, maybe just a hair larger than 6 3/4 on our paper. Here's that paper that is just a hair more than 6 3/4, and so see how it kind of overlaps? We're going to place that here, and then we're going to have a pocket at the bottom. But I'm gonna place the tape down and we'll put that down and we can trim off the top. So I have placed the tape on 3 sides of the book and across the middle. And then on the right hand, the back side here, I've got it because we're gonna place it first to hit in the corner, and then I didn't know for sure where it would land over here. So that's going to be the plan. We'll take that up. So let me remove the tape cover here. And I am gonna take it off right here. I measured about 9.5. That's how tall the book is. I really wasn't wanting to do a lot of measurements related to the book itself, but I had to for this particular way. So we're gonna start here on the inside corner and line up the bottom. And then we'll go across the top. Place that down, and then we're going to trim off the bottom and then add, or trim off the top, and then we'll add our pocket. No corner to have to deal with here. So now I've taken a scrap sheet of paper that is 7 1/8 by 4 inches tall, and I did round this corner because it's going to fit right down there. And I've put a little notch in it. And I've also taken now here some vintage photo ink, distressed oxide, and I'm going to just ink up this edge of the pocket so it will be very obvious that this is a slot that we can put things in. And you'll see how this just makes that stand out on the page there. So I'm going to align my tape on the 3 sides and we'll get ready to put that down. 3 sides have our tape now. And we're going to get this pocket down and we will be ready to start working on the pages inside our book. So I'm going to line up the corner, I think, first and the bottom. And it's okay to me if it doesn't go all the way. I'm probably also going to look at rounding that if any's coming through, but I don't think that it is. So I think that looks just fine. And again, we've got our pocket ready to hold things. So our book is decorated on the front, our inside cover, we have all our pages, back pocket, and back cover. We're ready to start out with these pages. So I like to use this plastic cutting sheet. I've gotten it before at the Dollar Tree, and I think there's at least 2 to a pack. I've done some videos of this before. I like to place that behind my pages as I'm gluing. And I'm just going to put glue all over this page. And then we'll put them together. Now, things are going to get messy. They're going to get wrinkled up. And that's okay because that's going to add some character to our book as well. Even though we've worked so hard on getting the covers just right and everything, it's not perfect in any matter, and you can do your covers however you want. You may want to just keep them plain. I like to decorate books, and so that's what I'm going to end up doing. So I've got this purple glue. It does dry clear. Now it's probably going to still have the wrinkles, and if you don't like that, you can either use your single pages. Sometimes people glue more than the 2 pages together, or you can look at using a more scrapbooking type glue. But I like it because I like the wrinkleness that it does add to the book, and it's going to give it some thickness, and I just like that with this type of book. It may not work for all books that I like to do, but I do like it for this. because this is a book that I'm going to use, just like I've said, with my scraps. When I just want to sit down and I don't have any particular project in mind, I just want to glue some things down, cut some letters out and put them on the page, do some writing, practicing my lettering. That's the purpose of this book. So I'm going to get started, continue on with these pages. 80 pages divided by 2. I've got to do this 40 times to get all these pages together. Let me show you where we are on our glue book. So I have gone through and glued all of the pages together. Most cases it's 2 pages per glued together. There were a couple of times I made mistakes, and so I had 2 cases where I have 3 pages that are glued together. But as you can see, compared to what I showed you earlier, my purple glue has dried clear, and most of the pages you can't really see the wrinkles. There is a feel to it though, but that is the feel that I want. And I want you to even see how my notebook even looks thicker, the way that it's looking from the side. So now these pages, we are ready to do our next step, which is the washi tape along the side. As I said from the beginning of the video, you don't have to do any of these details on your glue book. You could just start with your composition notebook. You don't have to decorate the front. You don't even have to use the washi tape. But I just like the look that the washi tape adds to the pages. I like that look. I like that feel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here, and I like to have usually a nice squared off piece, squared off for the most part. And we're just going to start by running our washi tape, and I always like to make sure that I'm have the one sheet or the glued pages together, and I'm just going to trim off the ends here, and we will wrap around the corner. I have a lot of washi tape. Now, if you don't have washi tape, I would not go about buying any right now, but I have so much washi tape, I want to use it. So I'm going to start off, and I usually put the washi on both sides. And I think what I'm going to do, I like to interchange the different pieces per page. But I think right now, I think for this design, I'm going to use the same washi tape front and back. And then I will mix up the pages like I said. So I go over just a little bit. And then we will trim off the edge. Get this trimmed off. This is just our scrapbook. Just a glue book with some fun things on it. And I did wrap over there. I actually might start wrapping first on the back side and then do the front. Now, I've also seen it where some people will do half and half, and I can do that on the next page. Let me show you that, and then I will get to work on all the pages. So this first technique, we put a strip on the front and a strip on the back. This is another way we can do this, and this may actually go a little bit faster, but you want to line this up on your page almost halfway on, halfway off. And let's trim this off on the end. I'm going to hang it over just a little bit on both sides. And then I'm going to flip over to the other side, and then we will fold over. Fold the washi tape over your paper. And then we're going to just trim off the ends. Trim off the ends. Now, this doesn't use quite as much washi tape because we're only doing one strip per page. And I think I do like that. It's very similar to the way that we folded over the front cover. And so that folds over that piece of paper. I think from here on out, I'm probably going to use this technique. So I'm going to continue on with my washi tape, and you can do yours as well, and then we'll come back together and see what we have. I'm on the last page, and I'm using one of these favorite thicker pieces of washi tape that I'm going to use as the very last piece. This is the next day from when I started this, and not to say that you couldn't get it all done in one sitting, but it does take a little bit of time, and depending on what other things you've got going on that you're doing. So I think I've got this down pretty good now. I like to fold the tape over and then trim around the edge just to get that little bit of a curve from the paper. And that is it. So here is my completed book. I have the book all finished. This is what it looks like from the side. Is that not gorgeous? Just looking at that there. And just wait till I get it filled with all sorts of pretties and things. I love how this turned out. And let's see, I'll do a view here from the side. This is a look of this from the side if I had the lid or if I have the cover down. I just love that. Is that not lovely? And all those different pieces of washi tape. Like I mentioned before, I'm planning to use this as my glue book and put different elements of embellishments and things in here. I might practice some of my writing and things, but I've got a lot of different plans, and you know what? I may be making another one that I can use just as a general notebook. But sharing what I've got inside and putting things inside is going to be a video for another day. But here is the final look of my cute little glue book made out of this cute paper set. I hope you've enjoyed this, and grab a composition notebook and get started on yours as well.